On the line with us this morning, Peter Broad, who is the president of Indiana Borough Council, Gerald Smith, the vice president of the council, and our conversation brought to you by Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
It's good to have both of you with us here this morning on Indiana in the Morning as we talk about the agenda for tomorrow night's Borough Council meeting. I bet you probably think it's been hijacked by all of this talk, but the ordinance that is being voted upon tomorrow or brought up before council tomorrow is certainly generating a lot of conversation. Gerald, let's start with you because I believe you were the author of the ordinance itself or the man who introduced it, and talk about what it is and what you hope to accomplish with it.
Sure. Thanks for having us on and giving us an opportunity to kind of talk about what's behind it. I want to start and just make sure that folks know where we're coming from. You know, as a borough council, we are a welcoming community. As Indiana Borough, we're a welcoming place. And, you know, the why on these things is always that we want to make sure our residents are welcome. All of our residents are welcome here in Indiana and can feel safe and recognize that a priority is placed on public health, and a priority is placed on making sure that we can keep our residents healthy. And in particular, we have a lot of residents that are coming in, student residents that are coming in for the first time here in Indiana, and we have a lot of student residents that are returning to Indiana to really a different scenario, right? When our student residents left in March, a lot of them, when they went back home, we had just started the quarantine, and now we are, many, many months into it. So what this ordinance is, and it's not just this ordinance that we're working on. I've been talking about three things that we're trying to do. We're trying to educate our public. We're trying to collaborate with our stakeholders around town, and then really enforce what the public health best advice is, and that includes these face masks. So we've done quite a bit. I hope people can go to togetherindiana.com. We've just launched a pretty big. The borough has just launched a pretty big communications campaign to really educate our community on why we're doing this. We're doing this to protect the health of our residents, to make sure that as we have students returning to live here, that we can stay healthy, that we don't end up being a hotspot, a COVID hotspot, which really there's a high potential for. So I just want to make sure listeners recognize that this is an effort that's not just the ordinance, right? We have invested pretty decently in a communications campaign. Please, I hope your listeners do go to togetherindiana.com. We're also on Facebook, Together Indiana. We're on Instagram, look up Together Indiana, and also on Twitter, and look up Together Indiana, and you'll find there all the things that we're doing to try and educate the public. A lot of the information on how we're collaborating with IUP, with the county COVID task force, and with all of our partners, and including this ordinance. Now, this ordinance itself is really limited to what the governor has put out in terms of face masks. It doesn't do anything extra in terms of requirements. So, when you are in places, indoors, obviously businesses where you can expect to be interacting with the public, face masks are required. That's not a new requirement. That requirement has been in since about April 1st from the governor. And all this ordinance does is allows us to be able to enforce that. I know there's a lot of concern in the community. I've definitely seen on your WCCS's social media and on other local media. There's a lot of concern that this is some new regulation that's being placed on our community here, and it's really not. It's the same regulation that's been same mask requirement that's been in place since April 1st. All this does is allow our local folks here to be able to enforce it and to make sure that really this is important. And again, it's really because we need to set the standard for a lot of our returning residents and current residents that you are welcome here, that public health is important here, and it's so important that we wanted to be able to enforce this mask ordinance locally and make sure that people recognize that this is a safe place. You can come downtown. You can feel safe downtown because we are following public health requirements.
Peter Broad, of course, folks very much concerned about enforcement, and I'm sure that you could get caught up in what you're reading on social media reaction
Not
to our
just that,
stories or other
phone
things.
calls I'm getting too.
And phone calls, absolutely. But business people in particular concerned about this. What have you heard from them, and what sort of reaction have you gotten from business leaders and others within council and within Indiana Borough administration?
Right. When the reactions I've gotten have been mixed, either very strong support or open hostility. I've only heard from one business person downtown who is visibly upset because people are saying they're not going to shop in Indiana anymore if we pass this ordinance. My problem with that is that the people who are saying that haven't read the ordinance. They're inventing all kinds of notions about it. They're calling it a mask ordinance, which it is not. It's simply, as Gerald said, it's an ordinance that allows us to enforce the existing state regulations, in part because the district attorney has said he won't enforce them. But I've also had, I'm looking at my Facebook page right now, and the people who have friended me are all overwhelmingly in favor of the ordinance. I don't know whether they've read it either, but I really wish that people would calm down, look at what we've written, and it was our solicitor who wrote it. It wasn't anybody on the council. We are not going to do anything without thorough legal advice. It will probably be amended Tuesday night, and go back to be revoted on. So it probably won't take effect until the beginning of September. Actually, as it's written now, it's to take effect on September 1st. But yes, we are really interested in keeping the borough a safe place to be. We have something that many other communities don't, which is this influx of students from all over the state and other places. Who knows what they're bringing into town? We want them to be safe. Without them, our businesses are not going to be doing well. Without the university, the town is going to fall apart.
You both have heard, I'm sure, about one of the major points that people are making, and that is fines and the amounts of fines. And I'd like you each to comment on how that structure is designed and what the thought process is going into it in terms of enforcement. That certainly is an enforcement tool. Yes, and those fines are something that the solicitor came up with looking at state code. Actually, State College last week passed a similar ordinance, but their fine is immediate $300 with no gradations. Ours starts with a warning, then $50, then $75, then $300. Gerald?
Yeah, I think what our enforcement mechanism does is really brings us in line with our other stakeholders. Like I said, we've been collaborating with the administration at IUP, and if you're following what they're talking about at IUP, they are a masked school. You need to be wearing face masks when you are a student at IUP, and if you walk across campus, that message is being reverberated across every single building. And in most of their communications that's coming out, they are particularly stressing the fact that facial coverings are going to be required for students. And in fact, if students decide not to or are defiant about it, my understanding is that professors in class can actually a class disruption. So we're essentially, we can't do the same thing because we're out of school, but we're essentially bringing ourselves in line with the rest of the community. If you take a look at what the Indiana Area School District has done in terms of their masking policies, things are changing. However, I've heard it a number of times that Indiana Area School District is a masking district, right? That is the one of the techniques that they're going to be using in order to keep this virus from getting out of control here. So, these fines are there as an enforcement mechanism in the same way that IEP is enforcing it in a similar way, in the same way that the school district is. So we're really just coming in line with the rest of these stakeholders around. Like I said, it's all about educating, it's all about collaborating, and then it's about enforcing.
One of the ambiguous points about Dr. Levine's order, the way that it was written up, has to do with physical distancing and the line, and I probably won't get it correctly quoted, but you can correct me on that. The line about where physical distancing or social distancing is not possible. And that's awfully hard for folks to define, and that's one of the issues that we're hearing is that how do you know when you leave your house what is possible and what is not in terms of physical distancing?
Well, you put your mask in your pocket in case you get too close to people. That's easy enough.
Yeah,
I do.
I guess that is.
Yeah, I mean, it seems as simple as that. It seems as being prepared, bring a mask along, and if you're in a scenario where you're not able to be 6 feet apart from somebody, even outside, then you should put your mask on. This is not about this is not about some authoritarian rule or something. This is all about taking care of each other. This is all about caring about our community. It's about being together, Indiana, right? It's about making sure that we are a welcoming place and people can feel comfortable coming downtown because people are taking public health seriously.
So folks shouldn't worry about somebody hiding behind the corner and jumping out at you as you're walking by.
No.
I know that's a very simplistic way to put it. I know, but that's sort of what people have in mind as they think about this is that somebody is out there to get them.
Yeah, I think there has been. I've heard some businesses as well in the last couple of days that there really is this mistaken impression that that's what's going to be going on, that there's going to be sort of these mask police that are walking around enforcing this, and that's just not the case. This is not any more stringent than what has been in place since April, and I think I appreciate being able to be on the program this morning to try and alleviate folks' worries that that's going to be the case. That's just not the case.
Will there be part-time employees added on with the specific intent of enforcing the ordinance?
Well, right now, the ordinance does it gives the manager permission to hire such. We don't foresee that anytime in the near future. As you may understand, our budget is being stretched very thin as it is, and tax revenues are down, which means income for the borough is down. We've been trying to keep our expenses down as low as we can. However, if we find an open rebellion, then we may have to consider that.
Peter Broad, I'm sorry, Gerald. Go ahead.
I was going to say I'm pretty optimistic actually about how our community is going to respond and will respond. Again, I hope people go to togetherindiana.com, follow us on Facebook and on Instagram, and also on Twitter. I think people are going to respond to this pretty well. There are folks who have been saying that they aren't going to come downtown because of this, and I just find that to be really contrary to the character that I know Indiana is. This is a community that supports our small businesses. We were actually on a call with small businesses about a couple of weeks ago, and several of them said that they could really use an ordinance so that when folks come into their businesses, they're able to say, look, this is a requirement, please wear a mask, and allow them to, I guess for us to be the borough to be the bad guy, but this is going to help our businesses be able to be safe, be able to offer a shopping experience or a dining experience where they know they can be safe. So I'm more optimistic than what I see on social media. I don't think people are going to be boycotting downtown because we're dependent and insistent on safety. In fact, I think quite the opposite. We will likely, I'm hoping we see more folks coming downtown because they know we're taking public health seriously. I just want to mention, too, the other reason that we're thinking about this a lot is that our numbers locally here are increasing. We have relatively low numbers overall, but if you look at our positivity percentage, particularly in 15701, which is obviously bigger than the borough, we have over 10% of cases being positive, which is double the recommendation from the WHO, from the state, for reopening. So we are, while our cases are not super high, we are seeing increasing numbers. And I think most of our community is also aware of that, right? I'm not the only one following data. People are following data and recognizing that we do have kind of an uptick here. And I think that this ordinance and some of the other things we're doing, particularly educating and collaborating, are going to help our community recognize that, yeah, we are taking them seriously. You are safe to come downtown. And Indiana, you know, we are open for business with public health recommendations in place.
Gentlemen, thanks for visiting with us this morning. We need to get on to the Sports Minute. One more time, Gerald, if you could give that website.
Sure, that's togetherindiana.com. And on there, we've also got a Facebook, which is also the same thing, Together Indiana. There's also a Twitter, @TogetherIndiana, and also an Instagram, again, Together Indiana. So folks can follow that. And I believe our ordinances will be there. You'll be able to read exactly what those say, because I think it is important, like Peter says. People need to read exactly what's in the ordinance. It is no
and read
more
to page
stringent
3.
than what has been in place since April.
What did you say,
Page
Peter? Go
3.
to page 3?
Read to page 3. People who just read the first page then jump to all kinds of conclusions. But I have sent some people to read the whole thing, and they've come back and said, oh, I see.
Very good. Very good. Gentlemen, thanks again. We appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
It's the voice of Indiana County, WCCS, 101.1 FM and AM 11, 6.1 FM and AM 11, 6.1 FM and AM.